During Q1 of 2020, I was promoted to principal engineer at Amazon. I received hundreds of congratulations via email and Slack when the announcement was made. The lockdown had just started, so I suspect many more people were glued to social media than usual. But as I sat in my makeshift home office receiving these messages, I thought to myself that I should feel happier. Was this it? What the people sending those messages didn't see was that I'd been put up for promotion and failed 5 times over the previous 4 years. My success did not feel as good as those 5 previous attempts felt bad, not by a long shot. The funny part is, getting to senior SDE was the exact opposite experience. I started at Amazon as a support engineer in 2006 and made a lateral move to L4 SDE1 in December of 2007. I got to SDE2 in Q1 of 2009 and made it to Senior SDE or SDE3 in Q1 of 2012. I was flying through the ranks, and by 2016, 4 years after my last promotion, I thought I was ready to become an L7 principal engineer, but it wasn't meant to be. I'd gotten pretty far by winging it, but once I got stuck, I didn't know what to do to unstick myself. In this video, I'll give you 3 lessons I learned from this really frustrating experience. I hope you can just skip past these difficult bits. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Steve, Meta Scuba Steve, or as my wife likes to call me, Steve, and I'm an L7 principal engineer. On this channel, we take a structured and engineering approach to your life and career. Before I get into my first lesson, let's compare 2 hypothetical people. Russell isn't afraid to work nights and weekends when called upon. Actually, he's usually working nights because he finds work really engaging. Nobody's checked in more code or squashed more bugs than he has. He jumps at the chance to help others onboard and is super helpful with code review comments, helping others get better themselves. And Russell is awesome to work with. On the other end of the spectrum is Matt. He rolls into the office whenever he wakes up, which may or may not be in time for stand-up. He never works nights or weekends and stops working at 5 p.m. every day, but sometimes that's closer to 3. Matt checks in an average amount of code and solves an average amount of bugs. He helps people only when he has to. And to be quite honest, he's a bit of a jerk when people do ask for help. Between Russell and Matt, who's gonna get promoted first? On the surface, it seems like Russell is going above and beyond, so it must be him. But what if I told you that Matt knew intimately the details of the promotion process at their company, while Russell didn't, and he was just hoping that his performance was gonna be noticed? Well, then I'd switch and say that it's hard to know who is gonna get promoted first, despite the fact that Matt doesn't seem to be performing very well and Russell is killing it. This is my first point, which is that promotions aren't a meritocracy. They're a process, and just like any process, they aren't perfect, but they can also be broken down and optimized for. Many companies publish their promotion criteria and processes, but even if your company doesn't, if you'd like to get promoted, the first step is to understand what that process is. You can do this by asking your manager, coworkers that got promoted in the past, or your HR business partner. You can't beat a game if you don't know what the win conditions are. During the 4 years when I was trying to get promoted, my company changed the process for L7 promotions 3 times. When they changed, I didn't get clarifications on what the impact of the changes would be to my particular promotion. One of these changes shifted the responsibility for a promotion task from me to my manager. Because I didn't know about the change, we weren't able to finish that step in time, and that set me back another cycle, which was 6 months. All because I didn't understand these steps. You own your career growth. If it's an outcome that you want, you need to push for it and understand what it takes. For my next point, let me tell you a story from someone I mentored to the next level. For this video, let's call him Lance. Lance was kicking butt. He wrote a lot of high quality code, he fixed a lot of bugs, he made quick work of every task that was picked up. Lance does what he's told. His coworkers love him and his boss was really happy with his work. But when it came time to get feedback from his coworkers for promotion, his feedback providers weren't supportive, and Lance was a bit confused when we spoke. He was meeting all of the expectations for his level, and his performance was stellar. Why is it that high performance at level wasn't enough for the next level? The reason is because tech promotions are anti-Peter principle. The Peter principle is the idea that if you're competent at your current level, you should get promoted. Tech promotions are almost always anti-Peter principle. That is, you have to demonstrate competence at the next level before the promotion is given to you. The lesson here is that promotions are not a reward for good work, but rather given to people that can demonstrate that they can handle a broader scope. Companies that publish their promotion criteria are essentially describing what that next level scope is. This usually doesn't come in the form of checklists. If it did, then it would be a simple matter of checking all the boxes. Instead, what you want to provide are multiple data points of next level scope. When I shared this mental model with Lance, he finally got it. Performance at level, even high performance there, isn't enough to get promoted. On his next project, he took on more than what was expected, and he got promoted just 3 months later. And that brings me to the last lesson that I'll share with you today. Suppose you had a choice between 2 surgeons to do life-saving heart surgery on you. The research literature states that people with your condition have a 75% chance of survival. For the first surgeon, all you have are glowing reviews from previous patients. They all take the form of, "He's a great doctor. I would trust him to do it again in a heartbeat," pun intended. And for the second surgeon, for some reason there was a problem with getting reviews, but you had the raw data. The second surgeon has a 95% success rate, a whopping 20% more than the average. So, which one would you choose? Of course you're going to choose the second. It's not because the good reviews are a bad thing, but because the reviews suffer from literal survivor bias. Nobody that had a bad review was around to give it. But more than that, it's really difficult not to pick the second one in light of the concrete evidence that the second surgeon is really effective at the procedure. It's the same thing when it comes to promotion. If you're able to document next level data points with concrete evidence that you're operating at the next level, that trumps any qualitative endorsement. In other words, the lesson is that you should gather tangible evidence that you're operating at the next level. I've been witness to several promotions that were kicked back because the entire promotion packet was filled with statements like, "Steve is a great engineer. Whenever there's a problem, I trust that Steve will do the right thing." Or, "Steve was instrumental to the project name launch. Without him, the project would have been delivered late and with more defects." The problem with this type of feedback is that it neglects to isolate the specific contribution of the person in question and to highlight why that contribution demonstrates next level scope. Instead, a much more effective passage would read, "Steve was responsible for designing, coding, and delivering a critical component for project name. It was a tricky thing to write because the component had to provide a response to clients in under 10 milliseconds, whereas the component that he was replacing generated a response in 100 milliseconds. He was able to do this because he made the critical insight that many of the responses could be pre-computed. It's the same work, but you can see how the second piece of feedback is much more compelling. So how do you get people to write such good feedback for you? It's simple. Generally, you'll know who will be giving you feedback for promotion. All you have to do is write the feedback that you'd like to see from them, even if your project hasn't been delivered yet. As you do your work, make sure that you operate in a way that will lead to the feedback that you want. And when promotion time comes, you can send them a little message that reminds them of what they witnessed. I do a similar thing with my YouTube videos. As part of my process, I write down the type of comments that I want to elicit. Then, when I make my videos, I try to do them in a way that will generate the comments that I want for the video. For this video, the comments I wanted were, "I'm so glad that I found your channel. I just binged all of your content." And, "The content in your videos is gold. Thanks for making them." If you start from the feedback that you want from people and work backwards from that, it makes the process itself less ambiguous because it gives you a target. If you found these tips to be useful, make sure to register for the Speedrun to Promotion launch event. I'll go into much more detail about the structured approach to promotion that I developed, the promotion algorithm. The link is in the description. If you found this video to be useful, check out my video on 3 things holding back your promotion to senior engineer. If you're already a senior engineer, check out this video for 3 things holding back your promotion to staff or principal engineer.